Chad Moyer with you here on the Rural Radio Network. Time for our weekly conversation with Nebraska's ag climatologist, Al Dutcher. Al, thanks for joining us here this week. It was a hot week here this week, but it looks like things are maybe going to moderate as we get into next week. Give us the details, Al.
Yeah, Chad, I think that's probably the overwhelming consensus according to the models. We're going to have to endure a couple more days of this heat before we finally see the trough working across the northern plains strengthen as it moves toward the Great Lakes and deepen, and that's going to allow some cooler air to invade the northern and portions of the central plains along with most of the eastern corn belt. So in the meantime, we were expecting to see temperatures that will move up well into the 90s today. I think tomorrow we'll see quite a few 100-degree readings, particularly across the southern half of the state, and the closer to the Kansas border, the warmer conditions will be. And unfortunately, we're going to be dealing with a southerly flow, so there's going to be a lot of humidity to deal with. That sets us up for the stage for potential thunderstorm development as we see that cold front try to push through the state starting on Saturday afternoon, evening, and then working its way through into Sunday, brings a pretty significant cool down in the area of 10 to 15 degrees, so we're backing back into the 80s. And the bigger issue is where will the thunderstorms develop, and that's the uncertainty going over these next 4 or 5 days and through the end of next week, is that there's daily periodic chances of thunderstorm activity, and we know from the models' past performances that most likely it's not going to be exactly where it's being pointed at right now. So best thing I can say is that we'll deal with scattered thunderstorm activity essentially every afternoon all the way through about Thursday of next week before we start to see a drying trend establish itself. There is a system that coming through the middle of next week is going to reinforce the cool air, and we may be hard-pressed in portions of northeast Nebraska to hit the 80-degree mark as we get into the Thursday time frame. For most of the state, though, we should stay pretty much into the 80s to the lower 80s in the middle of the week, and then we ramp up toward the 90-degree mark across the western part of the state as we get into next Friday, and then particularly as we get into Saturday and Sunday, we'll see that heat start to expand toward the east, and there is one convective complex showing to be moving through our region on the 2nd. That one looks to be a potential for some significant moisture with that system. We'll wait to see whether or not it verifies out. But more importantly, as you go to the east of us, some of the areas, particularly across southern Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee, have been dealing with some very dry conditions over the last month to 6 weeks. This troughing pattern looks like it may give them the potential for upwards of 2 to 3 inches of moisture, so this would be some welcome relief for them. For us, hopefully everybody can get a share of this precipitation chances over this next week, because it does turn much drier and warmer going into the early part of August. And of course, without any major significant moisture, we're probably going to be dealing with some further yield issues and crop condition declines, particularly in the dryland environments where we have had shortages of moisture, particularly this spring into the early part of the summer, and that would be mostly in northeastern Nebraska. Might be seeing some of that spread into portions of east central Nebraska that missed out on recent rainfall events. So this is a critical time period. Hopefully the Mother Nature will provide some fireworks for us. We don't want to see the white combine, but we certainly need to see some widespread 1 to 2 inches to feel comfortable that we can escape some potential harm over the next couple of weeks due to the return of the heat as we go into later next weekend.
All right. Great insight. Thank you so much, Al. Nebraska's ag climatologist Al Dutcher with us here on the Rural Radio Network. Chad Moyer reports.